Silverwater Cove was the kind of neighborhood real estate agents loved to brag about. Gated entrances, stone-lined roads, luxury homes tucked neatly along manicured lawns, and a shimmering lake that anchored the entire community's identity. Brochures called it the heart of the neighborhood. What those brochures never mentioned was that the lake did not belong to the HOA. The lake, every inch of water, shoreline, and submerged land, belonged to Jonathan Reed. Jonathan's property predated Silverwater Cove by nearly 40 years. His late father had purchased the land when it was nothing more than forest and wetlands, later damming a natural basin to form the lake. When developers arrived decades later, Jonathan agreed to sell surrounding parcels but retained ownership of the water and a protected buffer zone around it. Those details were written clearly into county deeds and environmental filings. Jonathan lived quietly on the northern shore in a large but understated lake house. He was semi-retired, meticulous, and deeply private. HOA politics meant nothing to him until they came crashing onto his land. The trouble began during a particularly brutal summer. Rolling power outages plagued Silverwater Cove. Air conditioners failed. Refrigerators shut off. Residents flooded the HOA inbox with complaints. Pressure mounted fast. At an emergency board meeting, HOA President Cynthia Blake took control of the conversation. "The utility company is too slow," she declared. "We need a local solution." Her proposal was bold and reckless. Cynthia suggested installing a private power distribution facility to stabilize electricity during peak demand. Compact substation. Temporary, she insisted. Quiet. Safe. Then came the location. "The lake area," she said casually. "It's central. Out of sight. Plenty of space." One board member hesitated. "Isn't that private?" Cynthia waved it off. "It's effectively community property. Everyone uses it." No one checked the deeds. No one consulted a lawyer. And no one contacted Jonathan Reed. Within weeks, contracts were signed. Permits were assumed. Emails were labeled approved. Early one morning, Jonathan woke to the sound of engines echoing across the water. Flatbed trucks rolled past his gate. Excavators chewed through reeds along the shoreline. Survey flags dotted the land where ducks once nested. Concrete forms were placed less than 30 feet from the waterline. Jonathan stood at his window, silent. By noon, a metal framework rose where cattails had been. Jonathan walked down to the site and calmly asked the supervisor who authorized the work. "The HOA?" the man replied, pointing at paperwork. Jonathan returned home and opened a locked filing cabinet. Inside were decades of documents. Land deeds, environmental covenants, federal water protection agreements, easements, all meticulously organized. He sent one certified letter to the HOA demanding an immediate halt. It went unanswered. Cynthia dismissed it as posturing. Construction accelerated. Fencing went up. Warning signs appeared. Diesel generators hummed day and night. Oil residue seeped into shallow water. Neighbors whispered. Some were uneasy. Others assumed it was legitimate because the HOA said so. Jonathan didn't confront them. He documented everything. Photographs, drone footage, water samples, construction timestamps. Then he made calls. Quiet ones. Jonathan's first call went to the State Environmental Protection Office. The second went to the County Land Use Authority. The third went to the Public Utilities Commission. Each received identical packages, comprehensive, organized, impossible to ignore. Within 48 hours, inspectors arrived. They walked the shoreline with grim expressions. They reviewed permits that didn't exist. They noted proximity violations, wetland damage, and unauthorized utility construction. A cease and desist order was issued on the spot. Construction froze midday. Workers left equipment where it stood. The HOA received formal notice that daily fines would begin immediately. Cynthia was stunned. She called emergency meetings. She blamed contractors. She insisted approvals were implied. None of it mattered. The state determined the HOA had violated environmental protection laws. The county cited illegal land use. The Utilities Commission ruled the facility unauthorized and unsafe. Worst of all, the construction sat entirely on private land. Cynthia was named personally in the citations as the authorizing official. Fines climbed daily. Residents panicked when special assessments were announced to cover legal exposure. An emergency HOA meeting turned hostile. Homeowners demanded answers. Jonathan attended quietly, sitting near the back. When he was invited to speak, he stood calmly. "This lake was never community property," he said evenly. "You built on land you didn't own. I warned you." Silence followed. A vote was called. Cynthia was removed as HOA president. 2 board members resigned on the spot. Legal counsel was terminated. The facility was dismantled under government supervision. Contaminated soil was removed. The shoreline was restored at HOA expense. Power issues were resolved months later legally through the utility company. Jonathan never sued for profit. He required restoration, compliance, accountability. Silverwater Cove learned a hard lesson. Authority ends where ownership begins, and shortcuts always surface.